The council chamber stretched so far that the walls disappeared into shadow. Floating platforms held representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Some breathed methane through filters. Others existed as energy patterns contained in special fields. A few looked almost humanoid, but their eyes gave them away. Too many pupils, or colors that hurt to look at directly. Dayon stood in the center of it all, on a platform that felt too small. His dark suit was simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor around him. He kept his hands clasped behind his back and his face calm. Above him, holographic displays showed Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful. His home. The speaker was a Talarian, a species that looked like a cross between a mantis and a tree. Its voice came through translators as a hollow echo. Ambassador Dayon of Earth, you have been summoned to hear the Council's decision regarding humanity's place in galactic civilization. His voice didn't shake. The speaker's head tilted in what might have been disapproval. In the 15 standard years since first contact, humanity has violated 37 trade regulations, ignored 42 cultural protocols, and filed over 900 formal complaints about council procedures. Your species refuses to accept the natural order of things. We ask questions, Dayon replied. We want to understand why things work the way they do. We question authority. Another voice boomed. This one belonged to a Kreeth, a massive creature made of living crystal. You innovate without seeking approval. You trade with species we have marked as primitive. You spread chaos wherever you go. Dayon wanted to argue. He wanted to point out that those primitive species had ideas worth hearing. That innovation shouldn't require a committee of 47 species to approve it. That asking questions was how civilizations grew. But he stayed quiet. He already knew how this would end. The speaker raised one of its blade-like arms. The council has voted. By a count of 43-4, we have decided that humanity is incompatible with galactic civilization. Earth and all its colonies are hereby exiled from council space. You have 30 standard cycles to remove all human presence from our territory. After that, any humans found will be removed by force. The chamber went silent. Every eye, lens, and sensor focused on Dayon. They expected him to beg, to plead for another chance, to promise humanity would change, would follow the rules, would be good little primitives who knew their place. Instead, Dayon bowed slightly. Thank you for informing us of your decision. We'll begin preparations immediately. The speaker's translator carried a hint of confusion. You. Accept this. You've made your choice. We respect it. Dayon straightened. Is there anything else? We expect full compliance. All human vessels, all stations, all personnel. Everything must be removed from council space within the deadline. Understood. We'll be gone in 28 cycles. 30 was the deadline. The Kreeth rumbled. We don't need 30, Dayon said. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the council representatives whispered to each other in a dozen languages. None of them sounded satisfied. They had wanted drama, tears, desperate promises. Humans always surprised them, and they hated surprises. Dayon kept walking until the massive doors sealed behind him. Then he pulled out his communicator. The device was human-made, smaller and faster than anything the council used. They had complained about that too. Dayon to all human vessels and stations. Priority alert. Within seconds, responses flooded in. Thousands of humans scattered across hundreds of worlds and stations. Scientists, traders, explorers, engineers. All of them waiting to hear what the council had decided. We've been exiled, Dayon said simply. 30 cycles to get out. We're doing it in 28. The line went quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then a woman's voice came through. Captain Ji-Wan, commander of one of the largest cargo vessels in human service? Understood, Ambassador. Orders. Take everything that isn't nailed down. If it is nailed down, take the nails too. Anything you can legally acquire, scan, or copy, do it. We're going home, but we're taking their homework with us. Laughter rippled through the open channel. Someone else spoke up. What about things we can't legally acquire? Use your best judgment, Dayon said. But remember, we're not thieves. We're just extremely thorough. Copy that. Beginning preparations now. More voices confirmed receipt of orders. Within an hour, every human in council space would know. The exile had begun, but humanity wasn't running away in shame. They were making a strategic withdrawal. Dayan walked to the observation deck. Through the transparent steel, he could see dozens of ships docked at the council station. Many of them were human vessels. Smaller than most alien ships, but faster and more efficient. Humans had learned to do more with less. It was a survival trait from their early days in space. A Valorian approached him. The species looked like otters that walked upright with large eyes and soft fur. This one wore a council security uniform. "Ambassador, I am sorry for what happened." "Don't be," Dayan said. "This might be the best thing that ever happened to us." The Valorian's ears flicked in confusion. "How can Exile be good?" Dayan smiled. It wasn't a happy smile or a sad one. It was the smile of someone who had just figured out the solution to a difficult problem. Because now we don't have to follow their rules anymore. We can build things our way. Trade with whoever we want. Explore wherever we choose. The council thinks they're punishing us. Really, they just cut us loose. But you'll be isolated. Alone. We've been alone before, Dayan said. We got pretty good at it. We watched as the first human ships began undocking. They moved in formation, precise and coordinated. No panic, no chaos. Just efficient preparation. Within days, the exodus would be in full swing. Thousands of humans heading home, but not empty-handed. The council had voted to exile. What they didn't understand was that humans had learned a long time ago how to turn disasters into opportunities. Being told to leave wasn't an ending. It was permission to start something new. The Persistence was not a beautiful ship. It looked like a collection of boxes welded together and strapped to an engine. But it worked, and it worked well. Captain Jiwan had commanded her for 6 years, hauling cargo from one end of council space to the other. She knew every rattle, every quirk, every shortcut the ship had to offer. Right now, the ship was docked at Meridian Station, a massive trading hub in the Outer Rim. The station served as a meeting point for dozens of species. Humans did good business here. Past tense, Giwan thought, as she read the recall order again. All crew to the bridge, she called over the intercom. Within minutes, her 30 crew members crowded into the command center. Some looked worried. Others looked angry. A few just looked tired. "Y'all saw the message," Juan said. "We're being exiled. 28 cycles to get home. That's it." Minho, her chief engineer, crossed his arms. "They just kick us out." "That's it. What about our contracts?" "Our cargo. We fulfill what we can in the time we have. Everything else gets refunded or transferred to non-human carriers." Guan pulled up a star map. "But before we go, we have work to do." The ambassador was very clear. "We take everything we can with us." Yunji, the ship's science officer, raised her hand. She was young, barely 25, but brilliant. "Define everything. Knowledge, technology, data. Anything that helps us understand how the galaxy works. Anything we can learn from? We've spent 15 years as the new kids, following everyone else's rules and using their technology. Now we take that technology home and figure out how to make it better." Minho's expression shifted from angry to interested. "You want us to steal alien tech?" "I want us to acquire information through legal means," Giwan said carefully. "We have access to this station's markets, libraries, and technical databases. We're paying customers. We have every right to purchase, scan, and record whatever we want. If some of that information happens to include detailed scans of alien technology, well, nobody said we couldn't window shop." A grin spread across Minho's face. "I'm listening. Yunji, you hit the libraries. Download everything they'll let you access. Science, technology, history, culture. I want our databases full. Minho, you and your team start scanning every piece of equipment on this station. Power generators, life support, engines, weapons. I don't care if it's a coffee maker. If it's more advanced than what we have, I want detailed scans. What about things that aren't for sale? Someone asked. Then we observe from a distance and take notes. We're not thieves, but we are very, very curious humans who are about to leave forever. Nobody can fault us for wanting to learn. The crew scattered to their tasks. Giwan watched them go, then opened a secure channel to other human ships in the area. Within an hour, she had coordinated with 17 other captains. They would pool their findings, share their data, and make sure nothing was missed. 3 days later, Young-ji stumbled onto the bridge looking exhausted but excited. "Captain, you need to see this." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed a complex web of connections between different alien technologies. "I've been cross-referencing everything we've scanned with the technical manuals I downloaded. The Council species don't innovate much. They haven't had to. They're all using variations of the same basic technology. That's been around for thousands of years. And," Guan leaned forward, "and humans are really good at combining things in new ways. Look at this." Yoonji highlighted several systems. The Talarians have amazing energy efficiency in their power cores. The Kreeth have incredible material science for building structures. The Valorians have the best sensor arrays in known space. But nobody ever thought to combine them. Why not? Because they don't need to. They're satisfied with what they have. But humans, we're always looking for the better version. The faster ship. The more efficient engine. What if we took Talarian power cores, Kreeth materials, and Valorian sensors, and built something new? Kiwan felt a chill run down her spine. Not from fear, but from possibility. "How much data have you collected?" 17 terabytes so far. And that's just from this station. Other ships are reporting similar numbers. By the time we all get home, we'll have enough information to keep our engineers busy for decades. Minho appeared in the doorway, covered in grease and grinning. "Captain, you're going to love this. I got complete scans of the station's docking clamp system. It's Kreeth design, rated for ships 3 times our size. I also managed to get dimensional specs for their cargo handling equipment, their environmental processors, and, as a bonus, their waste recycling system." "The waste recycling system?" Jawan raised an eyebrow. "It's brilliant. 99% efficiency. We could use it on long-range missions." He wiped his hands on a rag. "I also made friends with a Talarian engineer. Bought them drinks, asked questions, took notes. They were happy to explain how their systems work. Probably because they assume we're too primitive to understand it. Are we? Right now? Maybe in 5 years?" Minho shrugged. "I'd bet on us." The days blurred together. Giwan's crew worked around the clock, gathering information. Other human ships did the same across Council space. Scientists downloaded research papers. Engineers scanned equipment. Traders bought sample materials. Diplomats collected cultural databases and linguistic programs. The aliens noticed, of course. But to them, it just looked like humans being typically strange. Taking too much interest in things. Asking too many questions. Being annoying right up until the end. What they didn't see was the bigger picture. Thousands of humans, all gathering pieces of the same puzzle. When those pieces came together, they would create something new. Something the Council had never imagined. On the 27th cycle, G1 sealed the last cargo container. The Persistence was loaded far beyond its usual capacity. Extra servers hummed in the cargo bay, filled with data. Sample materials were secured in environmental containers. Even the crew quarters had equipment stored in every spare corner. "We look like a floating junkyard," Minho observed. "We look like people who don't waste an opportunity," G1 corrected. She pulled up the navigation display. "Set course for Earth. Best speed." The Persistence undocked from Meridian Station for the last time. Around it, other human vessels did the same. They formed up into loose convoys, protecting each other on the long journey home. Not because they feared attack, but because that's what humans did. They looked out for each other. G1 took one last look at the station shrinking behind them. Somewhere in there, aliens were probably celebrating the departure of the troublesome humans. They thought they were getting rid of a problem, they had no idea what they had just created. Humans didn't give up. They adapted. And they had just been given the greatest gift possible: freedom from rules, permission to innovate. In a galaxy full of technology to learn from, the Council had exiled. But they had also unleashed humanity's greatest strength: the ability to take what they learned and make it better. The journey home would take months, but G1 wasn't worried. They had time, and they had data. Lots and lots of data. 5 years passed in what the Council considered peaceful normalcy. Trade routes operated smoothly. Diplomatic incidents decreased dramatically. The various species went about their business without the constant interruptions that humans had caused. Everything returned to the way it had been for thousands of years. The Council didn't think about Earth. Why would they? Exiled species either destroyed themselves or faded into irrelevance. It was the pattern established over millennia. Primitive species needed the Council's structure to survive. Without it, they collapsed. Simple as that. But then the reports started coming in. The first one arrived. From a mining colony on the edge of the neutral zone, the zone was a buffer region between Council space and the unexplored. Territories beyond. Not many went there. Resources were sparse, and it was far from major trade routes. The colony's chief administrator, a Creeth named Voreth, sent a routine report to Council archives. Buried in the data was a single line about unusual sensor readings. Ships detected at the edge of scanner range, moving at speeds that exceeded known vessel capabilities. By the time follow-up scans were initiated, the contacts had vanished. Voreth classified it as equipment malfunction. Sensors that old, that far from maintenance facilities, often gave false readings. The report was filed and forgotten. 3 months later, a trade convoy reported something strange. They had stopped to make repairs in an empty system between major routes. While there, their passive sensors picked up energy signatures suggesting recent construction. But when they investigated, they found nothing. Just empty space and faint traces of exotic particles that their databases couldn't identify. The convoy captain mentioned it in his log, but didn't file an official report. Strange readings and empty space weren't worth the paperwork. More incidents followed, scattered across the outer edges of Council territory. A science vessel found an asteroid that had been stripped of valuable minerals with a precision that suggested advanced mining technology. A patrol ship encountered debris from what looked like a station, but the design didn't match any known species. Border outposts reported brief contacts on long-range sensors, contacts that moved in ways that violated understood physics. Each incident was minor on its own, easy to explain away. Equipment problems, natural phenomena, or the imagination of bored crews seeing patterns in random data. But together, they painted a picture. Salmon was a Valorian researcher assigned to the Council's archival division. Her job was to compile reports from the outer regions and look for patterns that might indicate problems. Pirates, disease outbreaks, unusual stellar phenomena. Anything that might require Council attention. She was good at her job, which meant she was good at seeing connections others missed. 6 months after the first reports started appearing, Soman sat in her small office surrounded by holographic displays. Each display showed a different incident. Sensor anomalies, unexplained ship sightings, stripped mining sites, abandoned structures. Individually, they meant nothing. But Soman had started plotting them on a star map. The pattern was clear. All the incidents occurred in the neutral zone, or just beyond Council borders. All of them involved technology that seemed more advanced than it should be. And all of them happened in regions where Council presence was minimal or non-existent. Someone was building something out there. Something big. Something they didn't want the Council to see. Salman compiled her findings and requested a meeting with her supervisor, a Talarian bureaucrat named Vex. He listened to her presentation with the patience of someone who had heard thousands of theories from anxious researchers. "Now, what you're describing could be anything," Vex said when she finished. "Pirates upgrading their equipment. A new species we haven't encountered. Natural phenomena we don't understand yet." "The pattern is too consistent," Salman argued. "The technology signatures don't match any known species." And the timing is suspicious. Suspicious how? It all started about 5 years ago, right after the human exile. Vix's translator emitted what might have been a sigh. You think this is connected to the humans? I think we should consider the possibility. The humans were barely capable of interstellar travel when we exiled them. They had no advanced technology of their own. They were dependent on our infrastructure, our trade networks, our knowledge. Without us, they would have regressed to their pre-contact state. Maybe, Solomon said. Or maybe they adapted. In 5 years. Impossible. Developing the kind of technology you're describing takes centuries, even for species far more advanced than humans, unless they didn't develop it from scratch. Unless they took what they learned from us and built on it. Vex stood, indicating the meeting was over. I appreciate your diligence, researcher Salmon, but I think you're seeing patterns where none exist. If it makes you feel better, I'll add a note to our border patrol schedules to increase monitoring in the neutral zone, but I wouldn't hold my breath for a grand human conspiracy. Salmon left the office frustrated but not deterred. She returned to her research, diving deeper into the data. The more she looked, the more convinced she became. Someone was out there building in the dark. And they were getting better at hiding. She expanded her search parameters, looking for indirect evidence. Trade patterns, resource flows, anything that might indicate unusual activity. What she found surprised her. Several independent species, ones the Council had classified as too primitive for formal contact, were showing signs of technological advancement. Better ships, more efficient power systems, improved communications. Nothing dramatic, but enough to be noticeable. When Soman cross-referenced their locations with the sensor anomalies, she found overlap. The species showing advancement were located near the areas where unknown vessels had been spotted. Someone was trading with them, teaching them, helping them advance. Soman spent 3 more months gathering evidence. She documented everything, building a case that even the most skeptical council member couldn't ignore. Then she requested a formal presentation to the full council. It took 2 weeks for her request to be approved. When she finally stood before the assembled representatives, she felt the weight of their attention. This was her one chance to make them understand. She presented her findings clearly and methodically. The sensor data, the timeline, the technological signatures, the pattern of advancement in independent species. She showed how everything connected, how it all pointed to organized activity in the regions beyond council oversight. What you're describing is concerning, the speaker acknowledged, but you haven't proven human involvement. The timing is too coincidental, Salmon insisted. 5 years ago, we exiled a species known for rapid innovation and disregard for established protocols. Now we're seeing exactly that kind of activity in the unclaimed regions. Or we're seeing the natural expansion of species we haven't properly cataloged, the Kreeth representative rumbled. The galaxy is vast. There are countless civilizations we've never encountered. Why assume it's the humans? Because humans don't give up, Salmon said. We exiled them, expecting they would fade away. But what if they didn't? What if they took what they learned here and used it to build something new? The council deliberated for hours. In the end, they voted to increase patrols in the neutral zone and allocate resources for better monitoring. But they refused to acknowledge Summon's theory about human involvement. The humans were gone, exiled, powerless. The council had voted. And the council's decisions were final. Salmon returned to her office and continued her research. The council might not believe her, but she knew the truth. Humans were out there. They were building, trading, growing stronger. The only question was what they would do next. The plague started on Corinthia Prime, the homeworld of one of the Council's founding species. It spread faster than anything their medical teams had seen before. The Corinthians were an old species, proud and powerful. Their medical technology was considered among the best in the galaxy. But this disease was different. It attacked the nervous system in ways that defied their understanding. Symptoms appeared suddenly. Victims lost coordination, then consciousness, then their lives. The mortality rate was 70%. Millions died in the first month. High Physician Taiwan led the medical response. He assembled the best scientists from across the Corinthian territories. They worked day and night, analyzing samples, running simulations, testing treatments. Nothing worked. Every time they thought they understood the disease, it changed, mutated, adapted. It's like it's designed to resist treatment, one researcher said during a briefing. Impossible, Taiwan replied. Natural diseases don't work that way, and maybe it's not natural. The possibility of biological warfare hung in the air, unspoken but understood. If another species had created this plague, it would mean war. The council would mobilize. Billions would die, but they had no proof. No evidence of who might have done it or why. Just a disease that was killing them and a clock that was running out. Taiwan refused to bring the matter to the council. Pride prevented it. The Corinthians were supposed to be advanced, capable, strong. Admitting they couldn't solve this problem on their own would be seen as weakness. Other species would lose respect. Political power would shift. Better to die in silence than live in shame. 3 months into the crisis, Taiwan received a strange transmission. It came through unofficial channels, encrypted in a way his systems almost didn't recognize. When decoded, it contained medical data, detailed analysis of the plague, its structure, its mutation patterns, its weaknesses, treatment protocols that targeted specific genetic markers, synthesized antibodies that could be mass-produced, step-by-step instructions for creating a cure. At the bottom of the file was a simple message in Corinthian, "Get well soon." Part of him wanted to delete it. Accepting help from unknown sources went against every protocol. It could be a trap, more biological warfare, a way to make things worse. But his people were dying. He had to try something. He assembled his best team and showed them the data. They spent 2 days verifying it, checking every detail against their own research. The information was accurate. More than accurate. It was brilliant. Whoever created it understood the disease better than the Corinthians did. We should inform the council, one scientist suggested. No, Taiwan said. We use this information first. If it works, then we'll decide what to tell them. They synthesized the antibodies following the provided instructions. The first test subjects were volunteers who had nothing to lose. They were already dying. Within 48 hours, their symptoms began to reverse. Within a week, they were recovering. It worked. Taiwan ordered mass production immediately. Within a month, the plague was under control. Within 3 months, it was eradicated. Millions of lives were saved. When the crisis ended, Taiwan tried to trace the transmission's origin. His best technicians worked for weeks, following digital trails across a dozen relay stations. Every lead ended in encrypted dead ends. But deep space monitoring stations reported something interesting. A ship had briefly appeared near Corinthian space at the exact time the transmission was sent. The vessel registered on sensors for less than a minute before vanishing. Its energy signature was unusual. A combination of different technologies that shouldn't work together but somehow did. Buried in the signature data was a fragment that looked human in origin. Taiwan filed the information away and said nothing. The council didn't need to know. The Corinthians had solved their problem. That was all that mattered. But across the galaxy, similar incidents began occurring. A trade freighter carrying food to a colony. World suffered a catastrophic engine failure in deep space. They were 3 weeks from the nearest station with no way to call for help. Their crew prepared to die. Then a ship appeared. No identification. No communication. It simply matched velocity, transferred emergency supplies through airlocks, and vanished before the shocked crew could even say thank you. Later analysis of the supplies revealed packaging that looked human-made. But with improvements that shouldn't exist, a mining outpost on a distant moon came under attack by pirates. The small security force fought bravely but was overwhelmed. Just as the pirates prepared to breach the main dome, their ships suddenly went dark. All of them simultaneously. Power, weapons, navigation. Everything failed at once. The security chief watched in confusion as the pirate vessels drifted helplessly. Then a different ship appeared, smaller and faster than anything he recognized. It swept through the area, attached some kind of device to each pirate vessel, then disappeared. Hours later, a council patrol arrived in response to the distress call. They found the pirates in custody, their ships intact, but completely powered down. The devices attached to their hulls were simple in design but sophisticated in execution. Temporary electromagnetic pulse generators that had been precisely calibrated to disable the ships without destroying them. Nobody knew where they came from, but the security chief remembered something. Years ago, he had worked on a station that serviced human vessels. He recognized the efficiency in the device design, the way it accomplished its goal with minimal waste. That was how humans built things. A research station studying a dangerous stellar phenomenon lost structural integrity during an unexpected solar flare. Their distress call went out across all frequencies. The nearest council ship was 2 days away. The station had hours at most. Emergency repair drones appeared from nowhere, dozens of them working in perfect coordination. They sealed breaches, reinforced weak points, and stabilized the station's orbit. By the time the council ship arrived, the emergency was over. The drones had vanished, leaving only one clue: a small data chip attached to the station's hull. It contained detailed scans of the stellar phenomenon the researchers had been studying, along with suggestions for better monitoring equipment. At the end of the file, a short message: "Science is for sharing." The reports accumulated, mysterious assistance appearing when needed most. Ships that came and went without identification, technology that seemed familiar but advanced beyond current understanding. Always helping, never asking for anything in return. The Council's Intelligence Division compiled the incidents into a classified report. The pattern was undeniable. Someone was operating in the shadows, providing aid to those who needed it. The technology signatures suggested a coalition of different species working together. But the efficiency, the timing, the way problems were solved with minimal sources pointed to one species: humans. The intelligence director presented the findings to a closed session of the council. The representatives listened in uncomfortable silence. If humans were really behind this, it raised disturbing questions. How had they advanced so quickly? Where did they get the resources? Who was helping them? And most importantly, what did they want? "We should send a diplomatic mission to Earth," one representative suggested. "Open communications. Find out what they're doing." "No," the speaker said firmly. "We voted for Exile. We don't negotiate with exiled species. It would show weakness. But if they're helping people, then they're violating the terms of their exile by operating in our space. We should respond with force, risk war with a species we clearly underestimated." The council argued for hours. No consensus emerged. In the end, they decided to do what bureaucracies do best: nothing. They would monitor the situation, gather more information, and reconvene when they had a better understanding of what they were dealing with. Meanwhile, in the dark spaces between stars, humans continued their work. Building, trading, helping, growing stronger with every passing day. The exile had set them free, and they were making the most of it. The council chamber looked exactly as it had 7 years ago. Same floating platforms, same shadows stretching into darkness, same representatives from 47 species, though some of the faces had changed. Age, politics, and death had brought new individuals to old positions. What was different was the man standing in the center. Dayon shouldn't have been there. The security systems should have detected his approach. The guards should have stopped him at a dozen different checkpoints. The chamber doors were supposed to be sealed during sessions. Yet there he stood, calm as ever, hands clasped behind his back, wearing the same simple dark suit he had worn 7 years ago. The speaker's translator crackled with static before producing words. "Ambassador Dayon, you were not invited. You have no authority to be here." "True," Dayon agreed. "But I thought it was time we talked." A Kreeth security officer reached for a weapon. It didn't activate. The officer tried again. Nothing. Around the chamber, other security personnel discovered the same problem. Weapons, communicators, even basic control panels refused to respond. Don't be alarmed, Taeyeon said. This is just a temporary measure to ensure we can have a conversation without interruption. No one is in danger. Your systems will return to normal when I leave. This is an act of war, the Kreeth representative boomed.
Oh.
No, this is a conversation you've been avoiding for 7 years. I'm simply making sure you listen. The speaker's platform drifted forward slightly. What do you want? To explain what happened after you exiled us? To offer you a choice? And to make sure you understand the situation you're actually in? Daeon gestured, and holographic displays appeared around the chamber. Star maps showing the neutral zone and the regions beyond. 7 years ago, you told us to leave. You expected us to return to Earth and fade into history. We did leave Council space exactly as ordered, but we didn't go home. Not entirely. The displays showed construction sites. Stations built in deep space. Mining operations on asteroids rich with resources. Agricultural platforms growing food in zero gravity. All of it in the unclaimed regions beyond Council borders. We used the time you gave us. 28 cycles to gather information. Data, technology, knowledge. We took it all home and spent a year understanding it. Then we started building. Impossible, a Valorian representative said. You didn't have the resources or expertise. We didn't, so we partnered with species you ignored. The ones you classified as too primitive for formal contact? Turns out they had plenty to offer. Resources, labor, unique perspectives. They just needed someone willing to treat them as equals instead of primitives. The displays changed, showing ships. Dozens of different designs, each one combining elements from multiple species. Human efficiency, Corinthian medical technology, Talarian power systems, Valorian sensors, all working together in ways the Council had never imagined. We didn't innovate alone. We collaborated, shared knowledge, built something new. Daeon walked slowly around the chamber's central platform. While you sat here maintaining the same systems you've used for thousands of years, we were creating the future. You violated your exile, the speaker said. Human vessels in our space, human technology interfering with our affairs, stayed outside Council territory, exactly as ordered. If our ships appeared in your space, it was to help people in need. We saved Corinthian lives during the plague. We protected miners from pirates. We prevented disasters. We broke no laws because we were never in your jurisdiction. You stole our technology. We learned from publicly available information, purchased materials through legal channels, and observed what you willingly showed us. That's not theft. That's education. And we were very good students. Summon's platform moved forward. What do you want from us? Daeon smiled slightly. Nothing. We don't need anything from the Council anymore. We have our own trade networks, our own allies, our own technology. We're completely self-sufficient. Then why are you here? To offer you a choice, Daeon gestured again, and the displays changed to show comparative data. Council technological advancement over the past 1,000 years versus human advancement over the past 7 years. The difference was stark. You've stagnated. Not declined, but stopped growing. You have comfortable lives, stable systems, predictable routines. That's fine if you want to stay the same forever. But the galaxy isn't static. New challenges will emerge. New threats. New opportunities. And you'll face them with 1,000-year-old solutions. What's your alternative? The speaker asked. Partnership. We share what we've learned. You share what you know. We work together to build something better than either of us could create alone. No hierarchy. No primitives and advanced species. Just equals working toward common goals. You expect us to accept you as equals? The Kreeth representative's tone was incredulous. After 7 years, I expect you to recognize reality. Humanity isn't seeking your approval anymore. We've built our own civilization, made our own alliances, developed our own technology. We're offering partnership because we believe cooperation is better than isolation. But if you refuse, we'll continue doing exactly what we've been doing, building relationships with everyone else. The chamber erupted in multiple languages as representatives argued among themselves. Dayon waited patiently, watching the chaos he had created. Finally, the speaker called for order. This is not a decision we can make immediately. We need time to discuss, to verify your claims, to consult our governments. Of course, take all the time you need. Dayon turned toward the exit, then paused. But understand something. The galaxy is bigger than council space. There are hundreds of species you've never contacted. Thousands of systems you've never explored. Entire civilizations developing without your guidance. Humanity is working with them, learning from them, teaching them. Every day, your influence shrinks while ours grows. Is that a threat? The Kreeth demanded. It's an observation. You can either adapt to this new reality, or watch from the sidelines while the rest of the galaxy moves forward. The choice is yours. The chamber doors unsealed. Security systems came back online. Weapons activated. But Dayon was already walking out, unhurried and unconcerned. Outside the chamber, Captain Jiwan waited beside a sleek vessel that looked like nothing in the Council's databases. The ship's hull showed evidence of at least a dozen different technological influences, all seamlessly integrated. Through the transparent sections, a diverse crew could be seen working at various stations. Valorians, Talarians, even a few species the Council had never formally recognized. All working alongside humans as partners. How did it go? Jiwan asked. About as expected. They're terrified and trying not to show it. Think they'll accept? Eventually. Pride will delay them, but reality has a way of winning arguments. Dayon climbed aboard the ship. How's the integration with the new sensor array? Better than predicted? Minho combined Valorian sensor technology with human processing algorithms. We can detect ships at twice the previous range. Good, we'll need it for the Deep Space Survey next month. The ship lifted smoothly from the Council Station's docking bay. Other vessels made way for it, their crews watching with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The human ship accelerated faster than should be possible, then vanished into faster-than-light travel. Using a drive system that combined principles from 4 different species inside the council chamber, the representatives finally stopped arguing. Zaman approached the speaker's platform. We need to discuss this seriously, she said. The humans aren't bluffing. I've been tracking their activities for years. They're exactly as advanced as the ambassador claims. Recommending we negotiate with an exiled species would set a dangerous precedent, the speaker replied.
Ouch.
Not negotiating might be worse. They're building alliances with everyone we ignored. Soon, they'll have more influence than we do. We can either join them or become irrelevant. The speaker's translator emitted a sound that might have been resignation. Schedule another session for next week. We'll put this to a vote, and if we vote no, then we hope we're not making the same mistake twice. Salmon looked at the star map still displayed in the chamber. The vast regions of human influence glowing in soft blue light. Territory earned not through conquest, but through cooperation. Technology advanced not through hoarding, but through sharing. The Council had exiled Earth 7 years ago, thinking they were removing a problem. Instead, they had created a rival. One that operated on principles they had forgotten or never understood. Humans didn't wait for permission to succeed. They didn't accept limitations as permanent. And they didn't hold grudges when offered the chance to build something better. The exile had ended years ago. The Council just hadn't realized they were the ones being left behind. Now they had to decide if they would catch up or watch as the galaxy moved on without them. Either way, humanity would continue, building, growing, reaching, for the stars that had always been there. Destiny. The rulers had voted to exile Earth, but Earth had voted to thrive anyway, and that made all the difference.